Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's such a pleasure to watch and rewatch this movie and to talk about it with you both. I'll start with a question that probably you get a lot, but what was the nugget or the inspiration that led to the story of this film?
First, I feel that I was very willing to do a film with Jodie Foster, and this is like a very good reason to make a film. And then eventually, it's been like 15 years I've been trying to find like the good character for her. And since my first film, I had like a character, I had like a scene in this French film starring like this, at this time, very young actress, Léa Seydoux. And it was for Jodie Foster, but she did not hear my call. And eventually, 15 years after, when Anne Berest, sent me this character, I fell in love with Lilian Steiner. And I was like, this is it. This is for Jodie. And I rewrote with Anne this part and this character.
And so you always conceived of her as an American in France, fluent in French, that notion, that was always baked in?
It was connected to, as soon as I knew that the film would be interesting, if it would have been made for Jodie, it became obvious that the fact that she's an American expat in Paris would be interesting because she would have to record her patient. What was like the signification of this language that she would speak fluently, that fluently? Isn't it awkward? Can we have like a round of applause for like the performance she gave? Because it feels almost uncanny in a way, the way she speaks French. So I was like, this is totally like the kind of things that you have like to add to the plot of the narration. So she'd have to record, she would miss a word, she would be a very bad therapist in the beginning, not listening to anyone, and then eventually becoming like a better one at the end of the film.
I've heard you say, Jodie, that as someone who is fluent in French, you adopt a slightly different character as a French-speaking person. And I'm curious how that weighed into the conception of Lilian.
Yes, well, naturally, I just have a higher voice in French. I think because I was taught by these ladies with these very high voices like this. And that was just how I was taught.
Maybe they're here in the audience tonight.
But also, I'm unsure of myself in French. I have less confidence. I'm always worried. I have a little bit of anxiety that I'm not going to find the right word or I can't communicate well enough. And that kind of comes out in the character of Lilian, that she's somebody who in some ways is strong and overconfident, and yet she's, always a little bit nervous about whether she's understood. And I think that really comes out in all the stuff with her son. My sister, for example, has a kid, one of her kids, so she has 3 kids, French kids, and my sister speaks terrible French.
Wow.
No, she speaks, she's completely fluent. She just doesn't understand why you should have to try and have an accent. So she always spoke to all of her kids in English. And the last one refused to ever speak back to her in English. And he refused to learn the language, and he refused to learn her language at all. And so she just gave up at a certain point. And there's something interesting about that. Like, what does that mean? It means that that child in some ways is trying to dominate you and say, like, I'm always going to be funnier. I'm always going to interrupt you. I'm always going to speak better than you do. And I'm not going to make the effort to learn your language. There's something almost aggressive about it, actually, and I thought that little bit of ambivalent motherhood was interesting for the character.
The character is like any great character, this incredible mystery, in that we watch her initially investigate the mystery of perhaps her failure with her patient. And over the course of the film, it feels like we narrow down to a different sense of failure she may carry. And I'm wondering if that was articulated between the two of you as you were working on those scene-to-scene transitions with the son particularly.
First, I feel it's always like so interesting as like female directors like depict failures in women. It's like when you have like a male director, it's always like eventually at the end he's a good guy. And we just like, I don't know, I'm feeling like very close to the character because of her failures. And the fact that
yes.
she's just like, there's like une remise en question. It's like questioning herself like at a certain moment of her career. And this is something that I felt like very close to the character first. And eventually, somehow we know that after like 5 minutes that it's not an investigation on a crime, but it's like an investigation on herself. And this is something that we kept like talking, of course, eventually. And this scene with the son, who's played by the amazingly funny Vincent Lacoste, with this like scene as a Nazi. I mean, like the guy from the milice was like hilarious to me. I was like, what is this sick brain that I'm just like, why this scene? I don't know. This is just like pure freedom. I don't know. And I'm a mother of a son, and I'm like, how threatening is it to be a mom of someone who will become like eventually someone that you want to be independent of you? And to me, the scene that I connect most, I'm sorry, it's like a very therapeutic moment. Who is a therapist in the audience? Who is in therapy?
None. Look, there's none.
Who's in therapy here?
These are some very neurotic people.
Who's an alcoholic? Thank you very much.
evolved.
Thank you very much for sharing. Wrong group. Anyway, and I feel that the scene where she says, I really wanted you to be overcoming me, overliving me, surviving me.
To survive me.
To survive me is something that is like a deep secret in the film. But there's also like many secrets in the films, if you want, and many drawers in the films that you can open and close if you want. So I don't know if I answered your question.
No. I mean, you did. I think I'm so curious in terms of the working process between the two of you. Jodie, I think of you as one of our greatest actors and also one of our greatest directors. And so I'm curious about what is it like to collaborate with an actor who also thinks like a director, or does that
Such a pressure.
does it come into play?
She had 3 directors on.
I had 3 on my set.
Daniel Auteuil, Mathieu Almaric, and
Wow.
Even Luana Bajrami, who plays
Right.
like the daughter of Virginie Fira, like she directed like 3 movies and she's 23. So what does it tell about me? Anyway, the thing is that it's like, wow, well, let's do it together. And then the thing is, maybe one word on that. First, when we talked about the scripts, I would have been like more than happy to rewrite the script with Jodie. I would have said yes. I mean, like, she would have wanted like to produce it, to rewrite it. I would have said yes. But then I noticed that since day one, you were very careful of what was written, and you just wanted to dive and delve into it and not rewrite it or just like put it in your hand. But then on the set, it creates like a huge dialogue with someone who's the director also, because she knows exactly what we're doing. She knows exactly like when you're faking it, when you pretend it's like, I know exactly, and then you want to die, and she knows, and she's like, And
Perhaps
also
has
she knows
more
what you're
empathy
making.
when you can know you're still searching for the answer.
well, we're all here to support the vision of the film, which is the director. I'm here to serve the director. That's my role as an actor, and I love that role. I love, entering in and saying, okay, these are the reasons why I want to do this movie, and this is what I see in it. But I am here to serve you, that's the way I was taught in some ways, and to me that's very freeing. So I know that my role is not to direct a movie or to have an overall signature. My role is through the character, which is just my language. There's the language of props and the language of set decoration and the language of composition of music. I just have the acting language, but I'm there to serve the director. And so it is a collaboration, but it's, how can I help you?
And do you feel, I mean, you've worked with so many great directors, and so I'm curious if you felt Do you feel like it's starting over with each new person? Is it a new getting to know you process, or is it something about the process itself?
Yeah, every movie, you spend the first 3 weeks to a month going like, who is this person and how should I approach them? So, whether it's David Fincher or Martin Scorsese or Woody Allen or Spike Lee, Claude Chabrol, these are all entirely different people that have different needs. Some people need there to be a lot of noise on the set and for there to be a lot of ideas and opinions and to be laughing all the time. And some people need it to be deathly quiet and don't...
Names. Who? Who?
I think, I love, David Fincher is one of my favorite directors that I've ever worked with.
With Rebecca Zlotowski?
Yeah, with you. And I've never learned as much from anybody as David Fincher. And, his I think the word that he says more often than not is, shh, he just he can't handle it. He just doesn't want anyone to say anything. And I adore him. And so, of course, that's how we make it work. Just different people have different ways. Neil Jordan, who I loved working with and I also learned a lot from, works in a completely different way than I do, where he is prepared in some ways, but he's a stream of consciousness guy. So he really believes that you walk into the space, and only when you walk into the space do you make real decisions instinctually that come from your gut about, and he'll just go, I wonder if there was 16 taxi cabs that came down here. And suddenly you just see people going like, what? I've got 10 minutes to get taxi cabs. So it's, we're here to serve, it's the director's birthday party, and we're here to serve how that goes. But, their job is to be a good parent. So their job is to say, the train is leaving the station at 8:10, and it needs to arrive by 9:50. And the way you get there, go,
And what would you, what kind of environment do you like on a set?
Very agonistic, very fighting. No, I like peace.
Yeah.
I'm fighting against the stereotype of the tyranny of the director, and especially even in the fact that I'm working with such legends as Jodie Foster, because I don't want to be a Pygmalion. I don't want to craft actors. Sometimes to discover. Sometimes they're like, oh, you made this actress. You discovered her, especially with. And I'm like, maybe she discovered me. Maybe she, So this is my entire approach to the set is very collective, though very autoritaire sometimes, because you need to have. And sometimes you feel that, especially in France, I don't know why. Especially maybe because we have those. Models of tyrannic and despots directors. Yeah. We feel sometimes that people are happy to have a monarchy on set. And then, am I oversharing that? I think that I'm it's really unfiltered because of this champagne.
Because of the jet lag and the champagne.
I'm sorry.
It's a bad combination.
But just to say, I like peace. I like collaborate. I like to, and maybe the fact that I like to collaborate with huge stars that are also directors says something in the symmetry I like while directing people. I like when it's symmetrical.
Yeah, I think Rebecca, if I can just say, maybe I'm wrong, but I think she really enjoys it to feel contained like a family, so that there are sometimes jobs of taking off her scarf and putting it on me and saying, that looks good. Wait, let me touch your lipstick. I think there's too much lipstick. Here, use mine. She's suddenly doing 3 or 4 jobs, and a lot
would be am I in an underdeveloped country? Is this legal or whatever?
But I think there's something beautiful about that, because it does feel like play. It feels like we're playing. It doesn't feel like, there's 275 people on a crew and everybody has a job and, handle, and it doesn't feel as computerized, I think.
It's funny because I've always felt like an archetype we don't hear enough of is that any good director, male or female, should feel like a really cool mom. Yeah. And so in
Very
some
cool,
ways,
abusive mom.
All those jobs kind of seem to fit that description. Speaking of family, you and Daniel, you have such a lived-in relationship. There's something so tender and complicated between you, genuinely hot I just loved the fact that I loved getting to see the reawakening of this relationship. And I'm curious, had you known each other well? Had you worked together before?
No,
What was that
it
relationship?
was just an amazing choice by Rebecca. You know, he's an extraordinary actor, and of course we know him from his comedies and we know him from his dramas. And I've known his face my entire life. You know, I've grown up with his face. I know exactly where his birthmark is. I know exactly what his mannerisms are and how he walks. And so I did feel immediately like he was a member of my family. You know, like I was. And so we actually weirdly didn't have to spend much time together because it just felt so easy and so natural. And I think that once Rebecca brought on Daniel, I think the film kind of took on a whole new tone because he does have this lightheartedness and this sort of quiet, gentle guy who doesn't take anything too seriously. You know, so it infused more of the comedy in the film.
And I loved the scene in the elevator.
Oh.
I was like, when you witness this kind of chemistry between two actors that are two continents, like to us French people, Daniel Auteuil, and even here, like with among cinephiles, it's like Claude Sauté, it's also Les Sous-Doués passent leur bac, which is like, I don't know, who knows this film? See what I mean? And it's like, it's a total like weird and new combination. And also, I felt that it was sensual.
There aren't many movies that really talk about the incredibly complex relationship between exes. And for me, there's something really rich in that. You know, you raise children together and something happened. You know, this was your family member you were going to say you're going to spend the rest of your life with, that you told everything to. They know everything about you. Something happened, and now you don't see each other ever. And, you know, you call each other on the phone and say, you know, our son is having graduation or whatever. But otherwise, there's that tension of that always, of like, I knew you. I knew you were in your worst ways and in your best ways. And there's a whole bunch of conversations that we haven't had that we won't have anymore. And for me, and we've spoken about this, there's one line in the movie that says more than anything. When they're in the car, they're finally smoking a cigarette, of course. What thriller or mystery leaves 10 minutes for people to go smoke a cigarette in the car while it's raining? A French movie. And they're sitting in the car.
Under the rain.
And she says, why'd you leave me? And it's the question she hasn't asked for 10 years. It's the question she was too afraid to ask, she was too ashamed to ask, and it's the one that's the investigation.
Yeah, and I was so struck by that sort of that concentric circles of her investigation of herself and the sense of having to finally expose herself to him and ask that incredibly loaded question.
Vulnerable question. This is also my French theory about exes. I don't know if I can say it publicly, but it's cool to have sex and be friends after that. It's not a message to my husband, but it's like that people know in this audience that I love deeply and that I'm faithful to. But it's like, I feel that this is, why are you laughing? I feel this is, sometimes like somehow films must, when it comes to like family patterns and stuff, it must be, I don't know, be revolutionary in a way. Even small, in a small way, even like modestly. But if you can just like make new patterns triumph in families, like this is possible to have friendship after that, because it's too bad if not. It's like it did not work as a couple. Why is it like, why should you just like stop having a relationship with the person you had children with and whatever? So this is like something I want to advocate for.
Could you talk a little bit about the language of dreams and how that informed the storytelling and then seemed to be such a part of that investigation into Lillian's psyche? I'm wondering how early was that a component of the storytelling?
I think it was since day one. And I think it's also what connected us in a way. I don't know, we never talked about it and never publicly. But it's so much fun to create this language as a filmmaker. This is like a challenge that everyone as a filmmaker should have like once in a career. It's like, what is the material of our dreams, of our fantasies, of our denials, of our secrets, subconscious. This is something that filmmakers that we worship, like David Lynch, Fellini, have been delving into. And this is like, you have like two fields that filmmakers are super happy to take. It's the cinema itself. It's like, what is it to be like on a set of a film and whatever. It's like La Nuit Américaine, you were talking, and dreams. And I loved opening this door. And we worked really like organically.
And also, we haven't really talked about it. The film talks a little bit about Freudian psychoanalysis. In America, we don't really do Freudian anything anymore. Freud was pretty canceled over here, kind of a misogynist and a jerk, and that took him out of the picture. But it's still, no matter what, it's still such a rich lens to look at cinema. Obviously Hitchcock and numerous examples, but there's something fun, really fun about saying like, okay, I'm going to make a movie that deals with Freudian psychoanalysis, and then when you see the movie, you're going to have to see it all through that idea. Even the hypnosis, because Freud was involved with hypnosis before, in the beginnings of psychoanalysis before he rejected it, and so there's this real rivalry between hypnotists and psychoanalysts, which I kind of love how that works out in the film too.
Did you lean on your own dreams as you were making the film or conceiving?
Good question.
Not really.
Did you?
No.
Do you dream?
Oh, I dream. I dream in French often because, and I tend to yell at people in French in my dreams, where you know that perfect moment where it's the moment that you wished actually happened, the moment where you're yelling at a taxi driver and you're saying, you should have turned left and not turned right, and I told you not to, and why I'm not paying you $90? Why would I pay you $90? And then it all comes out perfectly. Those are my dreams.
You know how we call... I love that. You know how we call that in French?
What?
We call that the spirit of the stairs.
The spirit of the stairs.
Stair spirit's like l'esprit d'escalier. That means that you wish you would have said that after. And in the film, there's so many stairs.
Yeah.
So there's like, I was connected to the matière of the dreams of Jodie.
I feel like every film seems to offer its challenges and its joys. And I'm so curious from both of your perspectives what the challenges were as you were making it and what the joys were.
Well, you know my challenge. My challenge was just to remember my lines was really hard. Huh. I don't know about any of the people in the audience are over 60. It gets really hard to remember your lines, but to remember your lines in a different language that you're not able to actually improvise in is actually quite difficult because, if it's what I want to say is tennis shoe, but all I remember to say is shoe, that's a problem.
It felt very free and yet precise, so I just assumed you memorized it all perfectly.
Well, that's the challenge. I mean, the challenge is to find the spontaneous moment and to be in the present moment, and to be in the present moment as in a foreign language is a challenge.
Yeah. How about you?
I would say I start with the joy. I would say my joy was to delve into a season with you. I felt that we were entering the fall. We're entering autumn, and I was chasing this season during the film. And I would feel like, sometimes what I love about movies is when you enter a place and you don't want to leave. And am I going like SASMR when I right now? Was it? Okay, and you enter like a place, you don't want to leave, you want to live in the film. And I really tried to...
It's stretch your legs time.
It's like child's pose for everyone.
Isn't that what they do at the baseball game, which you guys didn't see, so I'm not going to ruin it for you? In baseball, you don't know this, but in America, in baseball, there's like this moment where they're like, okay, it's time to stretch. And everybody's like, doing kicks.
What happened with the
exercises.
Dodgers, by the way?
No, don't tell them.
Okay,
because they haven't seen it yet. But I'm just going to give you a hint. It was not 19 innings. It was not 19 innings.
Oh, they're so
No, they're not
now.
disappointed. You guys
We're
aren't,
happy.
you're not
They were
disappointed
happy.
that
Stop
that
it.
it wasn't as long as last night.
I think we have time for just a couple questions from the audience. So if anyone would like to ask a question, yes. The question is about the Jewish identity of the characters.
I mean, both. I mean, I'm like a I'm a French woman, like of Jewish culture, and I feel that there's always like a part of Jewishness in my characters. Like even it starts like I said it like in the beginning, like a Jewish joke. I mean, like what happens like if your therapist starts to cry when you tell her your stories, which is like a very good one for me. And then there's all like this Yiddish, aspect with the D book in the film. The fact that there is like ghosts and sometimes like souls that have not been living their entire lives, and eventually you just end up having the responsibility of living what they had to experience till the end, which is something meaningful for me as an orphan of a mom. Like I lost my mom when I was 11, and this is something that I'm always, connected. Like cinema is connected to ghosts to me, and then there's the Jewishness of the transmission, and the fact that there's always like question to ask and few answers. Also, the fact that Jodie would would play a character that would be this American person disconnected from her Judaism in a way, as an American person who was not like connected to the burden of the Eastern Europe, like a tragedy. And I feel it's everything was meaningful in a way, and because I know it well, I was like, let's do it. And also the rabbi in the film is my father, because he knows he
knows all the prayers.
All the prayers. I was like, and he's cheap and he was free. I was like, just, come. So this is the way, it's hard to make films on things you don't know. We can do that, but it's easier to bring like your own culture on that and to delve into it.
But as a lens that also dovetails with the psychoanalytic lens too. I mean, the Jewish lens in the film is very interesting. That, you're talking about somebody who's left their culture. She has left everything that she was and that she's known for to become something else. And she has a disconnection with her Judaism in some ways, that she's only able, fears, whatever that comes from the past, that she's only able to touch in her dreams or in her interior life. And those are that ends up working itself out in her regular life. I mean, I kind of love that moment where, at some point she's yelling at the dinner table. It's like, Jewish, we're all Jewish, except for you, Vanessa. She just points out the one Asian person there. It's just, we're all Jewish, except for you. She's already made sure to take one person out,
I've gotten, unfortunately, the signal that we have run out of time, but it is such a beautiful film. I hope you'll tell everybody what an incredible film, an incredible performance, A Private Life is. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, guys.
Stage.
Thank you.